Hello, thank you so much for being here. My name is Mrs. Quirós, and I am lucky enough to be the science resource teacher here at the Living Coast Discovery Center for the Chula Vista Elementary School District. The Living Coast is an environmental education center where we have sea turtles, sharks, snakes, and eagles, and more. And we're located in South San Diego Bay. I really miss having my students here on site, but I'm so excited that you are here today to learn with me. Today's activity is called Something Squiddy, and you get to become a scientist with me. There are many types of scientists, and today we're going to be a biologist because we're going to be studying about living things. If you have any questions today, be sure to put them into the question and answer chat box because I have my friends Mr. Bruder and Ms. Hughes, and they're going to help me answer some of those questions along the way, and I'll be answering some as well. So today we're going to be focusing on a group of amazing animals called mollusks. So we're going to be looking at their 6 main traits, and we're going to look closely at a squid later to be able to identify some of their internal and external structures that help them to survive. If you were able to tune into my experience last time, we talked all about animals and that there are 2 main groups of animals. Vertebrates, which are animals that have a backbone or a spine. So if you feel those bumps on your back, those are your vertebrae. So we are vertebrates. But there's a whole nother group of animals called invertebrates, which are animals that do not have a backbone or a spine. And these are the animals that we're going to be focusing on today. Over 97% of all the animals on Earth are invertebrates. And there are 5 main groups: sponges, arthropods, worms, sea stars and urchins, and mollusks. And the squid that we're going to be focusing on today are part of that mollusk group. In order to be a scientist today, we should ask ourselves, what makes a mollusk a mollusk? Well, we've already talked about one of their 6 main traits, and that is that they are invertebrates. They do not have a backbone. They do, however, have a shell. They have evolved from an animal that had a shell. So some mollusks have 2 shells, some mollusks have 1 shell, and some have kind of an internal shell-like structure. They also have a characteristic called a mantle, which is a soft part that actually makes the shell of their mollusk shell's body. They do have soft bodies, which sometimes are covered by that hard shell and sometimes are not. They also have a muscular foot, which helps them to move around. And sometimes they look like the picture here, but other times they've been kind of modified, so they look a little bit different, but still help them move around. And then the last thing that makes a mollusk is that they have something called a radula. And this is a really cool structure. This is like a tongue that has teeth. If you've ever been licked by a cat, you know that kind of rough feeling. Well, that's kind of what a radula might feel like, although they can be quite sharp. All right, so I happen to have some real live mollusks here to show you, and we're going to look at 2 sea snails and a sea slug. So this is our first animal, and this is called a limpet. So I want to show you, by looking at live animals, we can actually learn more about them by observing their different traits. So remember, I said that mollusks have a hard shell. So this structure right here, you can kind of see they do have a very hard shell covering their whole body. But right now, because they're underwater, this soft part is called their mantle. And that, remember, is the part that actually makes their shell. So right now, because they're under the water, it's completely covering their shell. But when they're out of the water, they can have it exposed and they suck their whole mantle into the inside of their shell so that they don't dry out. Because limpets live in what's called the intertidal zone. So sometimes, like at high tide, they're completely under the water, and other times they're going to be completely out of the water when it's low tide. So that we can learn about the different structures of a mollusk by looking at a limpet. I have another invertebrate here. So here is another mollusk, and this one is called a wavy top or turban snail. And we can definitely see the hard shell of this mollusk. So we can know that they have that structure. And if I turn it upside down, you can actually see this muscular foot. That is what they are walking or moving around on. And they also live in that intertidal zone. So they are sometimes in the water, sometimes out of the water. And when they're out of the water, they're going to suck that entire soft body part and their foot into their shell. You can kind of see that happening right now. So they don't dry out when they're out of the water. I have one more mollusk to show you, and this one's a little bit different. This is a sea hare, and it is an animal that does not have a shell on the outside, but it does actually have a hard kind of internal shell-like structure. But this one really shows us that mollusks can have that soft body, and it also has that really large muscular foot that it's going to be moving around with. They can actually move around pretty fast for a slug. Now this red kind of algae here is one of their favorite foods, and you might see little bits of green in there as well. And they have used their radula, or that rough tongue, to be able to break it apart into tiny little pieces so that it can eat it. There we go, you can kind of see it moving. So by studying these live animals, we're able to see some of the main traits of mollusks, like soft body, muscular foot, and also identify their radula. Excellent. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about an amazing mollusk called a squid. But before that, are there any questions, Mr. Bruder, that I could answer at this time that are coming in from our viewers?
Hey, Mrs. Yeah, we have some great questions out there.
Yay!
One of them that was shared was, does an octopus have more than one heart?
Ooh, we're going to get into the hearts in just a moment. And an octopus is going to have, let's see, I'm going to have you guys wait on that. Do an octopus have more or less hearts than a squid? So we're going to go ahead and find, and I'm going to answer that one later.
We also have some other great ones about mollusks. So is a mollusk considered a mammal, or is a squid considered a mammal?
Great question. So mammals are actually vertebrate animals. So they do have a spine or a backbone, which means that they're going to be in a different group of animals than a squid. So the squid do not have a backbone. They're an invertebrate. So mammals are part of that vertebrate category, and they have hair or fur, and they also are going to be a little bit different than the squid. So they're going to be in a different category. So they are not mammals. They are part of a group of animals called mollusks, which are invertebrates.
Mrs. Q, do we have time for one more question?
Absolutely, I love it.
We have one from Tyson out there asking, where do mollusks eat or get their energy from?
Ooh, so mollusks are going to get their food from either plants or animals. We're going to be talking a lot about squid, and they eat an enormous quantity of food, like fish and shrimp, and definitely they might even eat other squid. So the group of mollusks is pretty a wide range of what they actually eat, but we're going to look at squid's diet later.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Q. We have a bunch more questions, but I have a feeling you're about to answer a whole bunch of them.
Excellent. All right. So we are going to be looking at a squid today, which is a type of mollusk, to kind of be able to look at their characteristics a little bit better. And the squid that we're looking at today is not alive, but this allows me to be able to dissect it And we're going to be able to look at the inside and outside body parts that help them to live. And it's important for scientists to be able to do dissection because we're able to really understand the structures and compare them to other animals, and also find out ways that we can help these animals in the future. So I'm going to start by kind of describing some of their body parts, and then we'll take a look at our real squid. All right. So, like I said, their different body parts are going to let them live. And so we're going to be looking at the different structures that help them to move, eat, sense the world around them, breathe, and protect themselves today. So let's go ahead and start with the structures that help them to move. So squid have fins, which are able to help them steer and also to help them be stable in the water. But the real structures for a squid that help them to move are the mantle and the siphon. Now remember, the mantle was the part that usually helps make the shell of the mollusk. But in squid, they actually use them to suck up water, and then they squeeze it kind of like a balloon, and the water shoots out. They go one direction and the water goes the other. So they actually are going to move away from the way that the water is moving. So I happen to have a cool video here showing how these squid move, which is called jet propulsion. So let's check this out. You can see the squid's kind of moving away from us right here, and that's because the siphon is pointed directly at us. But how about this squid? Sometimes the squid are going to be able to move both directions just by changing the direction of their siphon. So the siphon is kind of that little tube-like structure where the water can actually flow through it to be able to change the direction of their propulsion. Okay, so those are some really cool structures that they have to be able to help them move. Now let's think about how they eat. Squid, you might have heard that an octopus has 8 arms, but squid also have 8 arms as well. However, it's a little bit different because an octopus has just the 8 arms, but a squid has 2 tentacles also. This is because squid like to hunt. They go out and grab their prey and actively hunt. So they have 2 tentacles that have hooks on the end of them and can grab their prey. They also have a really sharp beak to help them cut up their food, and they have suction cups on their arms to make sure that their food doesn't get away. Have another really cool video to show you how they can use those tentacles very quickly to catch their prey. So don't blink because it happens pretty fast. So in the corner here, you'll see a blue fish. Ooh, now you don't. Whoa, super fast, right? Let's slow it down. Here we go. Let's see it again. So the little blue fish in the corner, and now it's gone. You saw those 2 tentacles reach out and be able to grab that prey quickly. So they are definitely active hunters. Okay. So now that we've been able to learn about the structures that help them to move and to eat, let's go ahead and take a look at the squid that we're going to be using today. So if you can notice on the outside of the squid, we can see those structures that are going to help them to move. So right here is the mantle, this main part of their body. And then they have their fins on either side here to help them steer and to keep balance in the water. And then if I turn the squid over onto its belly, I can actually see this structure right here, which is the siphon. And this is the part that they're going to use to be able to shoot the water coming out of the mantle. So they fill up their mantle kind of like a balloon, and then they're going to direct the water straight out through the siphon. And notice if I turn the angle of the siphon, that's going to cause them to be able to turn direction in the water. So we have the siphon and the mantle, which are going to really help them to move, but then they also have these fins that are going to be able to steer and guide them as they go. All right, we also talked about how the squid eats. So these longer arms over here are the tentacles. So I'm going to go ahead and spread those out so you can see those 2 arms. And remember, they have hooks on the end of them to be able to grab their prey. And remember, they have how many arms? Do you remember? If you said 8, you're absolutely correct. So let's see if we can try and find all 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's the tentacle right here and the other tentacle. And then we have on this side 5, 6, 7, and 8. So they have 8 arms and those 2 long tentacles that they can extend to reach out and grab their prey. Now, I also mentioned that they do have a strong, sharp beak. So if I lift up the squid like this, you're going to be able to see this dark part right in the middle. And that is actually the beak of the squid that they use to cut up their food. We're going to be able to identify it a little bit better later when we kind of go inside the squid a bit more. But if you look closely, you can also see these little suction cups all over their arms, and that's going to help them to hold on to this prey that they are going to eat. All right, so those are some of the structures that are going to help the squid to move and to eat. So let's go ahead and go back and learn a little bit more about some other structures, especially ones. Now we're going to look at how they protect themselves. So squid, they have that really soft body. They don't have a hard shell like a lot of the other mollusks. So they need to be able to hide really well. And something that they use is the coloration of their body. So if you look at these pictures, you can notice that the back of the squid is kind of dark, whereas the light belly is different. And that's called counter shading. Counter means opposite. So here it's meaning light and dark. When I show you the squid in a moment, I'll explain a little bit more about how that helps them to camouflage. You've probably also heard that they can use ink to be able to get away from predators. They can shoot it out one direction and then swim away the other. It confuses their predators so that they can get away. And the last thing you might not know about is that they have special cells called chromatophores, and they can turn them on and off. So they can kind of blink. They can make them really big, and they can turn all of them on all at once to make themselves darker, or they can kind of turn them off and make themselves lighter. So I happen to have a video of this squid activating its chromatophores. So you can see that they're kind of look like they're blinking, but they can control if they're going to turn them all on or all off, or they can make patterns like you saw in the video of them about to eat that fish. You saw them kind of doing patterns with the chromatophores also. And that helps them to communicate with other squid and also to kind of potentially protect themselves against predators or confuse their prey. So they use these structures to help them protect themselves. Now they also need to be able to sense the world around them. And if you notice on that squid, they have huge eyeballs. This is really important because they are under the water and it's kind of hard. There's a lot of light that comes into the water, so they need these really large eyes to help them see. Scientists think that they are only seeing in black and white, but they're still doing some research because they're really not exactly sure. And those large eyes are going to help them to see predators. If they see predators coming to them, they're going to probably be able to get away. They also have suction cups that can help them sense all around their areas. And sometimes they can actually taste with these suction cups. So they feel and taste with those suction cups. Can you imagine having like tongues all over your arms, on your fingers and your elbows? That would be pretty amazing, kind of, and gross, I think. All right, let's go check out these structures on our squid. So we're going to look at how they defend themselves first and how they protect themselves. And so this is the belly of the squid. So you can notice it's kind of light. And then if I flip it over, you notice it's definitely darker on this back side. Okay, so that is called counter shading. And what happens is if it's like this in the water and I'm above it, looking down on the squid, it's going to be really hard to see it because the dark bottom of the ocean is going to look similar to the dark body of the squid. But then if I'm under the squid and I'm looking up, I see this light part. And the light part is going to camouflage with the sky. So they actually have double camouflage from both the top and the bottom, which is going to be really helpful for these animals in the water. And then we also talked about the chromatophores, which are all these spots all over the squid. And what's amazing is I can actually activate this and turn them on by just rubbing on the skin. So I want you to notice how light colored it is right here. But if I rub on it, I can actually cause those chromatophores to activate and kind of turn on. So it's going to look a little bit darker in that area. Let's see if that changed a bit there. Pretty amazing that I can actually activate it just by rubbing on it. Do you see how there's more of them that have turned on now? So it's darker. They're an amazing type of cell, I think. All right, so we talked about the way that they protect themselves, and then look at how they can sense the world around them. This eye right here is so big, and then if I turn it over, the other eye is equally as big. So their whole head is really taken up a lot by their eyeballs. And this is going to allow them to see under the water and to be able to get away from those predators really well. And then we'll show you one more time. Those suction cups that are all over those arms are going to help them to feel and taste. Pretty amazing, I think. All right, so we have finished our external dissection of our squid. So now we're going to start going a little bit more internally. But before we do, let's learn about those inside parts, including their gills and their hearts. And yes, I did say hearts. So squid have 2 gills inside their body, which are going to help them to breathe. Now we have lungs that can take oxygen out of the air around us. They have gills that are able to take the oxygen out of the water around them. So we breathe the same kind of air, but we're in different environments, so we need different structures to help us breathe. So they have 2 gills that are able to take the oxygen out of the water, and then the oxygen gets put into the blood. And there are 3 hearts in this squid that are able to move that blood all over the body and bring oxygen to all of their parts. 2 of these hearts are at the tip of each gill. And then 1 heart is kind of called the systemic heart, and that's a lot more like ours, where it moves the blood around the rest of the body. So the gills and the hearts are going to be really important with bringing the oxygen to all parts of the cell. Let's check them out on our squid. Okay, so in order to be able to see them, I'm going to open up our squid by taking some scissors, and I'm just going to cut right up the middle of the mantle here to the tip. And then very easily I can open it up and look inside. And notice this is definitely kind of an open cavity, right? So water can go in there, they can puff it up like a balloon, and then they will be able to squirt it out through this siphon right here to be able to move. Now, as we see this, we can kind of see a couple different structures, and we're going to focus on their gills first. So if you notice right here is one of the gills, and then on the other side over here is the other one. So they have those 2 gills, and you can see how they're going to be floating around in the water. And so I'm going to actually snip them out, and I'm going to put them in some water so we can see what they look like once they're surrounded by water. So it's going to help us to understand how they work a little bit better. Now remember, they have 3 hearts, so there is a heart. We can't really see them because they're really small, but there's 1 heart at the tip of this gill, 1 heart at the tip of this gill, and then another heart that's a systemic heart that's going to move the blood all over the body within this tissue. So they have those 3 hearts and then the 2 gills. So let's go ahead and check out these gills now that they're in water a bit. So they're going to have the ability to kind of spread out and see if I can move them around. I want you to notice that they almost look like feathers inside the water here. They have many parts, so they're going to be having bumps and folds and many parts that you can see once they're in the water. They almost look like kind of wet feathers. And that's going to be really helpful to help them take oxygen out of the water. So I'm going to do a little activity. If you can go ahead and put your hand out like this, and I want you to take your other hand and I want you to feel the back of your hand, feel the palm of your hand, and then feel inside your fingers. Good. And then now go ahead and close your hand and feel the back of your hand, feel the palm of your hand. Are you touching more or less of your hand right now? What do you think? If you said less, you're correct, because we can't really touch in between our fingers right now, right? So this is how the gills work. The gills have many parts or lots of surface area for the water to touch, which means the more water that touches the gills, the more oxygen goes into the to the squid's body. So they're able to breathe really effectively. So that is how the gills work. Let's go back and learn a little bit more about, well, actually, there's one more thing I want to tell you about when we get back to our PowerPoint here, and that is my favorite part of a dissection of a squid, and that is the pathway of food. So squid are carnivores, right? And we talked about that they eat other squid potentially and fish and shrimp. And so they have that beak and the radula to cut up their food. There is something called a buccal bulb, which is a muscular kind of ring around that's going to control the radula and the beak. And then they have a food tube, just like we do, that connects the beak and the mouth part to the stomach. So it's a long tube that connects it all the way down to the stomach. Now you might be asking, why is she showing me a picture of a squid brain when I'm talking about food? This is amazing. The squid's brain is actually shaped like a donut. It has a hole in the middle of it. And the esophagus, or the food tube, goes through their brain. So every time they swallow their food, it actually travels all the way through their brain before it goes to their stomach. Would you like to see this? Let's check it out on our squid. Okay, so we're gonna lift up our squid here so we can see the beak. And if I take my tweezers here, I'm able to grab, there are two pieces to the beak. So we can see right here is one of them, nice and sharp right there. And the other one is in here as well. Here we go. Ooh, missed it. Go ahead and grab that second beak piece. Come on. There it is. All right. So we have both of those. And then if I am able to squeeze right here, I can grab onto the buccal bulb and just remove it from the squid. When I do this, if I do it carefully, you can actually see the esophagus is this little tube. Let me see if I can get it right here so you guys can see a little better. So that stringy thing there is actually the esophagus. That's the food that, or that's where the food travels from the mouth all the way down into the squid. So watch this. This is amazing. If I tug on the esophagus here, you guys can actually see something over here moving, right? You see that? Tug, tug, tug. So guess what? This is the stomach of the squid. So if I can, you can see the whole pathway that the food travels from the mouth structure down the esophagus. And remember, the brain is in here, so it travels through the brain and then down into the stomach. I think that's pretty incredible to be able to see the entire digestive system of a squid. Now I promise we're going to be able to see the ink kind of later. And so there's one more structure here that I want to point out, and that is the ink sac. So we talked about protection already, but now you can actually see the ink sac. Now it looks pretty tiny actually, but if I open it up, you will see that there is quite a bit of ink trapped inside. And so if they open their ink sac, they can squirt it right out. Remember that siphon that we talked about earlier? They're going to squirt all that ink out of the siphon and into the water in this direction. So what direction is the squid going to swim? If the ink is going this way, they are going to swim the opposite direction, right? So they can get away and confuse their predator. And the ink actually smells like the squid to add to further confusion. All right, my friends, we have done it. We have dissected the entire squid to look at some of their main body parts. And now it's time to learn about, or it's time to see how much you guys have learned today. It is time for our Kahoot quiz. So what's important right now is that you don't close this window. If you can, you're going to open up a second window, and I would like you to type in kahoot.it, either on a separate device or just open up a separate window on your own device. And when you do, I would like you to enter the game pin 3331286, okay? And while I get ready, I would love to hear some more questions from Mr. Bruder, if we have some from our audience right now. Ooh, Dazzled Duck and Expert Falcon and Fuzzy Sea Lion are joining. I love to see this. So Mr. Bruder, do we have any questions coming in that I can answer while we're getting people to sign into our Kahoot?
Yes, while friends join, we have some great questions. There are definitely some patterns, so I'm going to share a couple together. We had some questions about if the squids are able to change their color based on their mood, or if they can camouflage or things like that.
All right, so we think of like an octopus being able to change their color and their texture and kind of to blend in with their environment. And squid can't really change their colors, but they can kind of make themselves lighter or darker and change the pattern that they have. They can't do the texture like an octopus can, but they definitely use that to communicate with other squid and also to potentially have these really bizarre patterns to distract their prey or to scare away from their predators. So they do use those chromatophores quite a lot to help them protect themselves and communicate.
Awesome. We also had a question from Cole about how sharp those little hooks are that you mentioned.
Well, for us, I can't really feel them. They're not really sharp for us. However, to their prey, they can hook into them. They're really like a hook and they will not let go. So they're definitely sharp for like a fish or another squid. They can actually hold on to each other with them as well.
We had another question about squid, about what are some of the squid's predators?
All right, good question. So there are a lot of animals that like to eat squid. So they actually will be together in groups a lot of the times to help protect themselves and kind of camouflage together. And so fish might eat them. Sharks definitely eat squid. A whole lot of animals, if they can find them along the bottom, there's a lot of animals that will go along the bottom, like some sharks that we have here, like the horned sharks and the leopard sharks definitely love to eat squid. So pretty much any animal that's kind of swimming around in the ocean, sea lions also will definitely like to eat squid. So they have a lot of predators, and that's why they have such good ways of protecting themselves.
Mrs. Q, I see we have over 300 players in our Kahoot game, and it's still going. So if it's cool with you, we have a couple more questions.
Please, go ahead.
Sophia's wondering about how big is an average squid?
Oh, that's a great question. So the ones that I used today are called the California market squid, and they are, like you said, probably, or like you saw, probably about, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches long. But there are giant squid that can be bigger than a person. So it really depends on the species of squid, but there are, I believe there's almost 300 different species of squid out there. So depending on the type of squid and where they live and what they eat, their sizes are going to definitely be different.
Speaking of 300, we have 361 players already.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'm excited for you to play.
And we had a question from Derek. I think you mentioned something about this earlier. Why does a squid blood appear to be blue?
Ooh, this is really cool question. I was going to mention this, but our blood can change colors. If you guys know that. Our blood is red when it has oxygen. After it's going to our lungs and it gets oxygen, it turns red. And then when it gives the oxygen to our body parts, it actually turns blue when it doesn't have oxygen. Squid are different though. Squid have a copper-based blood instead of iron-based. So when their blood has oxygen, it is blue. And when it does not have oxygen, it's clear. So their blood changes color with oxygen like ours does, but it's actually different colors. So it's a little bit different because we have an iron-based blood and they have copper-based blood. Great question.
And another question, this time from Dean. How do squids, or do the squids, communicate with each other?
Well, they don't talk like we do. And I actually don't know if they make sounds, but they use those chromatophores to make patterns and also their body language. So they will use that siphon to be able to move around and kind of posture themselves. And they can even, this is amazing, they can make one side of their body look kind of friendly, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but when they have their patterns and looking really aggressive, they can tell the other squid, hey, this is my territory, or hey, I'm going to be over here and you need to stay away. But they could actually make one half of their body look aggressive and the other half look calm. So it's pretty incredible what they can do with those chromatophores.
Mrs. Q, I have to tell you, there are so many amazing features that we have had the chance to learn about today.
I agree. Squid are amazing animals.
Yes, they are. We have about 400 of our friends here ready to play a live Kahoot game. So Yay. I think we're ready to get started. If you are still trying to log in, you can totally still log in. You'll still be able to play with us and participate. So Mrs. Q, I'm going to pass it back to you.
All right, I'm going to hit start so you guys can begin. So I'm going to read the question. If you cannot sign into the Kahoot, no worries. You can totally put your answers into the chat because I know everyone has different technologically good devices right now or accessibility. So please go ahead and put your answers into the chat if you can't sign into this Kahoot. We would love to have you play along with us for sure. Okay, here we go. I'm going to read the question and the answer, and you can answer then. Oh, and Kahoot is going to record if you are going to answer it correctly and how fast you answer it. So take a moment to think and then stick your answer. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. First question. Squid are a type of animal called a, if you think they're called a mammal, choose the red triangle. If you think they're a mollusk, choose the blue diamond. If you think they're an insect, choose the yellow circle. And if you think they're a reptile, choose the green square. Squid are a type of animal called a, if you think they're a mammal, please choose the red triangle. If you think they're a mollusk, please choose the blue diamond. If you think they're an insect, choose the yellow circle. And if you think they're the reptile, please choose the green square. About 10 more seconds, get in your answers. Woohoo! Well done, friends. I know you're gonna rock this. And the answer is mollusk. Very good. And a majority of you said that they are definitely a mollusk. Well done. Let's see who was the fastest to get up in. Rocky newt, I love it, and zany wildcat, mountain lizard, charming condor, and dazzled dragon. Ooh, these are phenomenal names too. Let's see, here we go for our next question. All mollusks have red, soft bodies, blue, mantle, yellow, muscular foot, green, all of the above. All mollusks have red triangle is soft bodies, blue diamond is a mantle, yellow circle is a muscular foot, and green square is all of the above. All mollusks have, what do you think? Triangle, red triangle is soft bodies, blue diamond is mantle, yellow circle is muscular foot, and green square is all of the above. About 5 more seconds. Get those answers in. And the answer is ding, 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 all of the above. This one's kind of tricky because if you answered quickly, you might have chosen an earlier one, but it actually was all of the above for this one. They have, remember, 6 main traits. Here we go. Next question. Or let's see who is in the lead now. Wow, Rocky newt, well done. Expert falcon, fuzzy sea lion, stellar lion, and elated penguin. Here we go. Next question, number 3. How many arms does a squid have? How many arms does a squid have? Triangle, red triangle, 8. Blue diamond, 9. Yellow circle, 6. And green square, 11. How many arms does a squid have? If you think 8, choose the red triangle. If you think 9, choose the blue diamond. If you think 6, choose the circle, the yellow circle. And if you think 11, choose the green square. How many arms does a squid have? And ooh, look at those suction cups. Remember, they can taste with those as well as feel. How many arms? 5 seconds. Get your answers in. How many arms does a squid have? Yeah, you rocked that one. Well done, everyone. 8 arms is correct. They have those other 2 tentacles, but they're not called arms, so that was kind of tricky, and you guys rocked it. Oh man, Rocky newt, you are amazing. Radiant raven, stellar lion, red sable, and Arctic penguin. Well done. Next question. You guys are on fire. A squid uses its siphon to eat is the red triangle, breathe is the blue diamond, move is the yellow circle, and see is the green square. A squid uses its siphon to eat, red triangle, breathe, blue diamond, move, yellow circle, or see, green square. What is a squid going to use the siphon for? We have about 15 seconds. Is it for eating, breathing, moving, or seeing? Get those answers in. All right, and the answer is move. Ooh, that was a tricky one. A lot of you thought maybe eat, but most of you, well done, said move. Remember, they can control it to be able to control the direction that they are moving. Ooh, stellar lion takes the lead. Red sable still there. Nimble elephant, noble cheetah, and dazzled duck. Well done. Here we go. 2 more questions. How many hearts does a squid have? How many hearts does a squid have? If you think 3, choose the red triangle. If you think 2, choose the blue diamond. If you think 4, choose the yellow circle. And if you think 1, Choose the green square. How many hearts does a squid have? Red triangle is 3. Blue diamond is 2. Yellow circle is 4. And green square is 1. How many hearts does a squid have? 10 seconds. Get your answers in. Gave you a big hint with this picture. And the answer is, dun, da, da, da. Yeah, you rocked it. Well done. 3 hearts, 1 for each gill and 1 for the rest of their body. Last question. Let's see who's in the lead now. Ooh, stellar lion hanging in there. Noble cheetah, well done. Dazzled duck, elated penguin, and honest elk is in the running now. Well done. Here we go. Last one. A squid uses ink to, red triangle is move, blue diamond is see, yellow circle is feel around, and green square is protect itself. A squid uses ink to, move is the red triangle, see is the blue diamond, yellow circle is feel around, and green square is protect itself. What does the squid use the ink for? Move, see, feel around, or protect itself. Nicely done. Lots of answers on this one. Hooray. 10 seconds. Get them in. The squid uses its ink for moving, seeing, feeling around, or protecting itself. Final question. Yes, they use their ink to protect themselves. Absolutely. You guys did so well. Let's see who our top winner was. 3rd place, Dazzled Duck, fabulous job. 2nd place, Noble Cheetah, well done. And 1st place, dun da da da, Stellar Lion. You guys rocked it. Thank you guys all for helping and playing this game today. Honest Elk, and oh no, I forgot, couldn't read that 5th place one. You guys rocked it. I'm so impressed. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Now, if you enjoyed today's program, I happen to have some other videos where you can experience the animals here at the Living Coast. And I happen to have a playlist on YouTube called Creature Close-Ups with Mrs. Q. And I highly recommend going and checking out these videos. The link should be put into the question and answer box right now for you guys all to view. And next week, Mr. Bruder from the Innovation Station is going to be building an earthquake-resistant structure, and you can build it with him. So I highly recommend tuning in next Friday, November 20th, same time, 1 p.m., and you can actually build an earthquake-resistant structure. Thank you so much for joining me today and becoming a botanist to explore this amazing world of mollusks. I hope you understand them and the way they live better. And I hope to see you next time, and come out and visit the Living Coast when we're open again, hopefully in the spring. Bye for now.